All right, welcome to the Rotated Views podcast, episode number 5. This one is called Carpe Diem, Seize the Moment. I am your host, Jimmylee Velez. I am here with Goose, Heck, Manny, and Gabe. We got the full crew today, and talking about seizing the moment. I wanted to actually reply to an email that I received from a good friend of mine named Scott DeVore. What's up, Scott? We are going to answer your question. Scott DeVore is the Chief Financial Officer of Sold Incorporated. Look this guy up. Purebred entrepreneur. And we're going to answer his question. He just actually wanted, which is kind of funny. We are on now episode 5. And he asked us if we could kind of give a little intro of, each member of the crew. So, ironically, we did do this, but we never actually put it on either of our podcasts as of yet because things kind of got goofy and it really didn't make sense where we're going to, place it. So I'll kick it off. My name is Jimmylee. That is my actual full name, Jimmylee. I am a father of one, happily married. I work at a hospital. I am a supervisor of health information management department. I went to Temple University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and that's kind of the basics on me. So I will give the mic right over to my cousin Manny because we've received comments saying me and him have the same voice. So maybe if we put them right next to each other, you guys will be able to decipher who's who. So this is Manny. Introduce yourself.
Hello, my name's Manny. I sound nothing like Jim. Hopefully you guys won't get us confused. But I also went to Temple University. Tidbit, Jimmylee and I spent all 4 years together, dormed together, grew up together. It was fantastic.
It's good times.
I am a father of 2. I am a manager of a department for an equipment distributor. My latest hobbies now are just chasing my kids around, just being the best dad I could be.
All right.
Nice.
All right, so let's jump over to my middle brother here, Heck.
What's up? My name is Hector. They call me Heck for short. Keep it simple. I'm happily married, father of 4 girls. Yes, 4 girls. There's
Bless
no
your little
boys.
heart.
Oh, bless his heart.
I'm an IT specialist.
Cool. What's your hobby? Painting nails?
Painting nails. And braiding hair, too. So if any of you women want your hair done by me.
Sweet. All right, Goose. This is my oldest brother, Goose.
Yeah, my name is Miguel. They call me Goose. I don't know where that name really came from, but it's been a nickname for years. I am Jimmylee's older brother. I'm a father of 1. I'm also a barber. I'm the owner of the barbershop that I work at, so that keeps me pretty busy throughout my week. So, my time is precious because everyone wants to look fresh all the time.
There it is. Another entrepreneur on our hands. All right, cool. And we go to my good pal, Gabe, the IT guy for the podcast.
What a pal.
Oh, yeah. Well, obviously, I'm the IT guy for the podcast, but my job is actually I do medical records for a local area hospital. I'm unmarried and I have no children, so that sets me apart from everybody else. I'm also the resident, kind of geeky gamer guy, and I do part-time engineering school.
Cool.
Nice.
All right, so there you have it, folks. Scott, I hope you appreciate that. And actually, we thank you because it's now episode 5, and we're kind of, I guess, giving ourselves a little bit more to the audience so you kind of get a better understanding and where we're coming from and who we are. With that being said, I want to start this segment off with a little story that is close to my heart, and I think it's pretty special, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And then we'll get, comments again, like usual, from the guys. So, there are 2 guys who work together and both disliked their job. They always talked about becoming cops and living a much better life. One day, their employer offered tuition reimbursement as a benefit to their staff. The 2 guys talked about going to school for criminal justice. This could actually be a reality for them. They talked about all the benefits of becoming a cop, what it entail, including a much better lifestyle for their family. They schemed up plans on taking family vacations together, and having this profession together. One guy actually enrolled into classes and followed his dreams, while the other guy made excuses about how complex the enrollment process was. Either way, they remained working at this job they disliked over the course of 2 more years. They still talked about, taking family vacations, a better lifestyle, and having a much more gratifying career. One day happened. the one day happened, and their friendship changed forever. The one guy who went to school for criminal justice graduated and immediately landed his dream job. Within a few short years, he began achieving all his goals they talked about, including earning double the salary of what he was previously making. The two guys met up for lunch and caught up on life. The one guy is still complaining about his job and actually got demoted with a pay cut, and the now cop achieved everything they dreamed about. Interestingly enough, the guy who's still at the old job is still complaining about everything and is still talking about one day he'll go back to school and be part of the state's law enforcement, but only if he can find the time. So, with that being said, talking about seizing the moment, I think that is also a story about, jumping on the opportunity, aka seizing the moment, jumping on an opportunity that is before us. And it's interesting because we have one guy who basically sees this. It almost appears to him. He has this level of awareness that, okay, this is my door. This is my door, opportunities knocking, right, with tuition reimbursement. Because the first excuse was we can't afford school, but now their employer is offering to pay for, tuition reimbursement. And so he sees that's his opportunity and he jumps all over it. Which goes back to the question to me when I heard, do sometimes people just, I guess, dream things up and don't really want them and they're just saying it just to sound good or because this guy's saying, yeah, I want to become a cop, but when the opportunity literally to become a cop was free, he still, made up another excuse and was still coming up with, his own barriers almost.
It could be like that, yeah, he wants to do that, but maybe it's the fear of failing that prevents him from actually wanting to go through with it and more preventing him, just adding more excuses on top of what's already there.
Self-motivation. I mean, maybe he's just talking it up because his buddy's talking it up, and then he's like, yeah, that's not right for me.
Yeah, but we all talked about this too because they said, you become, kind of the average of the 5 people you hang around most. And I guess that's just an average. So I guess he kind of falls off on, the other part of the scale there. But it's interesting because you would think you can do it together. You're not, because you could be motivating each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like they can motivate each other in going, and if it can turn into like a competitive thing, like where
Right.
they both can do it, and all of a sudden they're completing classes. It could be who has a better grade, or actually in the law enforcement, being a cop, they have like exercises they have to do and they have the time or whatever. Everything could be like a full, and then they can finish successfully together. Which this story surprises me how it just split up in like two different ways.
And when I first read this, I was gonna get excited. I didn't realize it was a seize the moment kind of story, and I was like, wow, these guys are really. What if they really ended up being partners and everything? Like they're driving in the same cop car. And all. I thought that was cool, but one person didn't jump on the opportunity, and which brings me also to the the thought that how many opportunities are we given? Or just literally, that's like a bone that was thrown at him. I mean, like free tuition. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. His buddy's already doing it. How many opportunities are we actually missing, or do we know that we're missing? Just that level of awareness of the one guy taking full-fledged action on something, and the other one just not doing anything. That's what I was trying to say in the beginning. Like, was he just talking just to have a conversation, or was this something that he really wanted? And what you said. Could be the fear of failing. Interestingly, though, within 2 years, he got a pay cut and got demoted, while the other one literally made double for taking the risk. I guess I don't even know if you will call that a risk, but...
I guess he got penalized for stagnation.
Yeah, it's almost like if... You're always moving. Yeah. There's no staying still. You're always moving. And I learned this. You're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. There's no just staying still. And when you're staying still, guess what, guys? That's called moving backwards because everyone else is just blown by you.
And it's funny that he says, like, when he can find the time, there's never really truly the right time. It's when you decide to do it is the right time.
Yeah.
There's never.
Time just doesn't linger around and you're like, oh yeah, 2 weeks from now I have this amount of time for 6 months or whatever I could do. You just have to squeeze it in. You have to make it. It's all on that person's ambitious, actually. Like
absolutely.
If they're like that's what they really really want to do.
I mean, it's the biggest asset that we have is time. You can have all the money in the world. The one thing because you can lose all the money, right, that you had in the world. and then you could gain it back. The problem with time is you can't get it back. You're losing it. So those 2 years, I would love to get more details about the story. Like, what was this guy doing? Yeah. So another person, I guess the one person was going home and studying, and while you were doing what? You just literally just let the time go by? Or he could have been busy. It's not to, completely bash this guy, but what his excuse was, the time. Listen, dude, I'm going to tell you right now, no one has time. You make the time. You get up early. You go to bed late. You do whatever it is. My wife will tell you right now, there's numerous times she, like, literally, I'm passed out on the couch doing research on something or writing, lyrics to whatever it was on my spoken word album, writing my book, pages of my book, just on my phone on a little notepad. Brainstorm. My lunch breaks are a sandwich is in my mouth and I'm doing research on something and, writing stuff for, the blog. It's nonstop, but it's how bad do you want it? Or I can say like, oh no, I need this time to eat my, peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch. I need this half-hour break. To me, it's just, am I taking a full-fledged advantage of the time that I'm given, right? We don't know when our last day is. We don't know, when we're going to be called up, upstairs, so to speak. So for us to just kind of continually come up with, if you can't do it now, then when?
I think we talked about this on one of the other shows that it's kind of prioritizing what you consider the most important of your day. Is that when you actually look back and actually like write out everything you've done for the day. I'm sure you can find probably an hour or two of stuff you're just slacking off and doing who knows what, and within that time frame you can actually do something productive and
Absolutely.
actually go towards what you're actually trying to accomplish your goals.
Absolutely. I mean, how many times have we said we're gonna get to something, we'll do it? Or I know even me, which is kind of funny, like, oh man, I want to do the fence in my house one of these, but then I keep coming up with all these. Oh well, first I got to get a shed, and then I want to redo the the blacktop, and then it's just I'm building up all these things when I didn't. 4 years pass by and I still don't have a fence. I still have 4 different fences in each of them, each neighbor that I have. It's, I mean, we all do it. It's just to the degree. To me, that's I prioritize what I'm putting off. Obviously, that literally doesn't matter to me. It's not like our fence is falling. So I put other things like my book, other things like the podcast, other things like my career, my family first, and probably use my time, which I would say is wisely. For me in my life anyway, and invest that what I can. Plus, here's the other thing, dude. When you're young, you have so much energy. I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about myself. I'm 30 years old, right? That's young. That's energetic. I mean, what in the world? What else am I going to do? That's what I'm saying. Now is the time to use. And the more you put off, dude, if you think about it, what are you going to be older and then have... That's not to say nothing that there's not fit, older people out there, but while you have the energy, while you have the ambition and the motivation, everyone knows they say this about sports. They say this about the music industry. It's a young person's game. Why? Why do they say it's a young person? Because you have to be energetic. You have to be motivated. You have to want it. After a while, we get burnt out, right? Yep. Life just knocks us around so many times that we keep putting stuff off. You're going to end up like that guy who got demoted. Yeah. Who's ticked off about life, always angry, always tired. You ever notice that? The more people I run into that are entrepreneurs, that are motivated, it almost seems like they're doing more than you're doing, who's a person who just has a 40-hour work week. These guys are putting in 80 to 100 hours a week, and they look more vibrant, they look more energetic, they look more lively, and then you're the one saying that you don't have enough time. That being said, has anyone had like an opportunity that you let slip through your hands and you wish you could go back? I'm not saying that you wish you could go back, but you at least have the maturity to say, yeah, that probably slipped through my hands. Because I do honestly believe things happen for a reason, and if there's an opportunity that you didn't jump on, there should have been a lesson in that. But is there anything that you're like, dang?
I have an example, probably the other way. Well, I'll have 2. One is college. I wish I would have taken more advantage of the resources available to us at Temple or some of the organizations to get more involved. Definitely missed the boat there. Just kind of stayed in my own little bubble, kind of stayed with what I knew and what I was comfortable with, and just wanted to get out of there. I'm not a big fan of school, so looking back at it and kind of having some hindsight here, I'd want to go back and probably take advantage of those 4 years that I kind of slip by. But the one thing that for me was right after school, I was 23 years old, just got into an apartment, and I was like, man, life is passing me by. So I was like, I have to seize the moment is what I keep telling myself.
Right.
Seize the moment. Okay. So this is kind of a stupid example, but for me, this worked in the opposite. A guy in a van is driving around and says, hey, do you want a stereo? Two weird guys come up and say, hey, man, our boss want us to deliver this. They didn't want to take it. We got two. Man. You want it on a deal.
Stereos.
Correct. Right. Sound system. I'm like, this is it. This is telling me, go do it. My gut is screaming, don't know. Right. Stay away. And what did I do? I went, I pulled out 300. Now, mind you, 23 years old, just moved into an apartment. I probably only had about $600 in savings, right?
Right.
I pulled out $350, and the guy's like, I'll give it to you on a deal. I was like, man, give it to me for $300. And he's like, oh, dude, you're real. I'm like, come on, man. He says, okay, I think I get a deal. And I'm like, yeah, I'm whistling Dixie all the way to the bank. Yeah, I pull out the money. I give the guy the money. And I'm taking my cousin home. And as he's going home, he's like, he looked at the brand. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Inside, I have like a rush. I'm like, oh, my, I'm seizing the moment, right?
Right.
He goes on the internet and he says, yo, man, that's a scam, dude. And I'm like, no. I immediately, my gut starts screaming at me. And I'm like freaking out. From that moment on, I never ever had an opportunity or was kind of given an opportunity that I didn't listen to my gut. So that was the one opportunity that I seized.
Right,
kicked me in the nuts. I guess the lesson in all of that was to say, I don't do anything. There's no opportunities that I haven't given thought for and listened to my gut.
Right.
So I no longer have opportunities that pass me by where I'm like, I can't remember something I've let pass where I've been like, man, I should have jumped on that.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. That's called your intuition. And same thing has happened to me. There's something called a tech center on Temple University's campus where, it's just this huge building that's loaded with computers, study rooms, boardrooms, whatever. You sign in, whatever. It's access for Temple students. Basically, we would write our papers. Well, I would write my papers there, print out projects, whatever you had to do. And I held a couple meetings there, kind of group projects there. And that's pretty much where it ended for me. I remember one time, it was like a Friday afternoon. I finished everything. There was nothing to do till the evening. And it was like 2 hours, like 3 o'clock. So it was like 2 hours before we went to dinner or anything like that. So I started just walking around the tech center, kind of seeing, what else it had to offer. Because I know there's a whole other section. I literally was there for however many years, and this is like my senior year, and I'm wandering around the tech center just discovering this other like wing or whatever it was. It had all Apple products. So one half of it was like just design rooms. I guess you can do like graphic design. This wasn't like to specific students. It was like to all students. You had access to this. And then there was another one where it's like a recording studio. Then there's other one that had like a keyboard attached to the monitor or whatever it was. So it was basically like GarageBand when all that stuff was like kind of going on. And I'm looking back now, like I totally missed. I could have cut this learning curve that I'm doing with ironically, everything I was doing was recording an album, shooting videos, shooting the podcast now. I had that at my fingertips there at Temple. Didn't realize it. That was an opportunity I didn't even know I missed until afterwards. I'm like, wow, I had not only to just anything, it was like top of the line Apple products. And the same thing, I wanted to join like a society for like entrepreneurs, to kind of get more of a, like an insight on how, things operate on the business end, because at that point when I became interested, I was already in my senior year there at Temple. But that being said, I was doing a marketing business that did teach me a lot, about entrepreneurship, making my own mark here in this world. But that being said, let's jump on to a dad life segment. Do you guys, any of you guys, have advice for parents on seizing the moment with your children, or a time where you seized the moment with your child and it's kind of like, man, I'm glad I did that? I know for me and my wife, last year, my son was at this point 1.5 years, we were going back and forth with getting him involved with an activity. Obviously, he's an only child. He has a ton of cousins, but we went to him. I don't know. We're excited, new parents, and we're like, let's get him involved in something. He's walking. He's kind of like running around. He seemed to be throwing a ball and kicking a ball pretty far. My wife looks up something online or heard it from someone randomly that they started soccer in our area at 18 months. So we jumped all over it. And I was kind of like weird at first about it because I was unsure. I'm like, dude, this is going to be a waste of money. They're just going to be a bunch of kids running around in circles. Nothing's going to make sense. So we signed him up. We go to the first practice, right? And all of a sudden, the worst thought came to reality. The teacher, the instructor, dumps like a bunch of blocks onto like the middle circle of this indoor gymnasium or whatever, this middle school. And I'm like, dude, I knew it. We just paid a good shiny penny for these kids to just play. This is all they're going to do. They're just going to get in circle and throw blocks at each other. And James is wild. So I know he's not going to be paying attention. He's going to be running around in circles. And so she says, everyone grab 5 blocks or whatever. So she's like saying colors. Right. So we put all the blocks and we stand them up. We stand them up and the kids are all happy or whatever. And then he said, okay, run away from your parent and pretend you're a bear. And I'm like, dude, you got to be kidding me. So if anyone knows me, I'm almost 6'4", 6'3", 200 plus
He
pounds.
is the bear.
I'm this goofy human being with all these little toddlers running around acting like a bear, and my kid is chasing me, and all I can think of is how much I paid for this. So it's driving me absolutely insane. I'm like, what is the point of this? I don't get it. What are we doing? And then all of a sudden, all right, get to the line and then run. And then I understood the running thing. I'm like, okay, I get this. Then we went back to these blocks, and then they started rolling out the balls. So then they were doing like a hand-eye coordination thing where it's having the kids build their own little, house or little wall and then kick the ball into this wall and then knock it down and then build it back together. I'm like, oh, okay. So that does kind of make sense. I get that. The other thing was she got a bunch of cones and just started throwing them like cones, like all different colors. So the kid had to say the color and pick them up with their foot and then stand them up and then run over and kick them. So then I'm like, this is all coming together, kind of like the whole balance and agility thing, coordination. Then they're running. And then what was crazy about the soccer league for 18-month-old, it was 18 to 24 months. At the end, by the time they're done, it was a short thing. It was like a 2-month, league or whatever. They incorporated all those exercises into eventually you understood what they were doing and it made sense to soccer. Mind you, I have the funny part about that was you would have thought I just said that story as if I have this tremendous background in soccer. I know nothing about soccer, but I was not understanding what was going on. But I was actually patient, but I'm like looking at my wife. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me right now. What is going on? And she's loving it. She's having a blast. That's what she does. Like a little butterfly floating around with James. Well, I am having fun, but at the back of my mind, I'm like, dude, this better have something to do with soccer. And I said all that to say I am so happy we did that. I'm so happy we jumped on that opportunity because after starting to share what James was doing with other people who had children of similar age, they weren't even aware that they had this league. So I was like, wow, that's kind of cool that we did this with him at such an early age, and a lot of people didn't even know about it. I'm still baffled how we knew about it, but that was just one of those things where patience paid off. Does anyone else have like a seizing moment with their kid?
I look at it from probably a different perspective. Having 2 children, my first one, I was kind of on the younger side and still kind of ignorant to a lot of things. My daughter now, who is 4 years younger than my son, I seized the moment with her much more than I did with my son.
Are you saying in life in general or something specific?
No, and just in everything. Like
you're cherishing this stuff.
Yes, it's more of a cherishing and then seizing the opportunity when presented. Yesterday was a rainy day, dreary day. We spent all day in the house, and it was just me and her.
Right.
And she went to sleep. I laid down with her for about 20 minutes and just like held her close. She's little, and she's not always going to be little. We grow up,
Right.
obviously. They get bigger. Like my son wants to lay in the bed. He's now a grown man. He's like, no, man, you're too big at this point. So my daughter right now.
He's like, Dad, seize the moment.
Yeah. It's too much right now, buddy. It's too much. But I take the opportunity now that I realize what I kind of missed
Right.
or didn't seize at that moment with my son. I can do that with her. Obviously, hindsight. He enabled me to seize more moments with her. But then in doing that, when I get the time and think like, man, he's 7 now and we're going through baseball.
Yeah.
Like, enjoy the catches because at one point he's going to throw too hard and you're going to be too old and it's just going to be like, all right, man, I'm done. So I enjoy it now more so, now that I can kind of see it from a 30,000 foot view of things.
I mean, I think they actually say that about grandparents, right?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like sometimes as a parent, sometimes we're kind of rushing around, especially not even just even being a parent, just people in general in this current society. We're constantly rushing around. Everything is now. They call this a microwave society, right? The millennials are taking over. They want everything yesterday. Everything's fast. Everything's on social media. It's spinning around. And this goes back to the point. How many things are we missing by rushing around so much? How they say is, stop and smelling the flowers every once in a while. And I think that's something that we need to be conscious of and be aware of, to sometimes slow down, as Manny was saying, and cherish those moments, right? I mean, like I said this in the beginning, we don't know when our last day here is, and here we are, rushing through it. You have like complete opposites, either rushing through it or doing absolutely nothing, right? Just laying around and not accomplishing anything, not, bettering yourself. And it's one of those times where you have to like sit back and think, am I, what kind of person are you? Are you rushing through everything? Are you not doing anything at all? Are there opportunities that have been presented to you that maybe you could still go back and grab? This is the time. We don't have, tomorrow is not guaranteed. Yesterday's gone, right? Actually, I was going to finish this podcast with a quote by Mother Teresa, but I'll say it right now. She says, yesterday is gone. Tomorrow has not yet come. We only have today. Let us begin. I mean, dude, that gives me chills when I say that, because we're all here, how much planning and everything that goes into each one of these podcasts. And it's funny because if we weren't taking advantage of, the skill sets, the talents, the resources that we have, none of this would, manifest, right? We jumped on something. Obviously, it started off as a dream or whatever, but a lot of people talk, right? Me and Gabe were doing the math. It went from a small conversation, and in 6 weeks, we had basically a mini studio.
Yeah, exactly. And it's even since we started, it's upgraded multiple times.
Every week. Every week there's something,
But it's like it's always constantly trying to improve on what we've been doing anyway too, and
Absolutely.
and constantly looking for the new.
Well, the best.
Yes.
Is what we want, because I think it was in the first podcast we were talking about Mercedes-Benz. Their slogan is the best or nothing. And I said that from the beginning. I said I want the best stuff. Somebody was talking about microphone stands. I said, you know what? Stop looking. I'm gonna do more research. Or no, I not say stop looking. I said don't buy them. I said hold off. Let's get the best ones we can possibly get, obviously within reason. And that is a conversation that I had with someone. And 6 weeks later, we're literally recording our first one. And some people might say, "Wow, that's a month and a half. That's kind of long." If you ever put something together to this caliber, you would understand that's actually really fast. And not only that, the quality of what it is. We're not recording on cell phones or anything like that, which is the legit thing. So it's just going back and seeing. I had a conversation with Manny. I had a conversation with Heck. I had a conversation with Goose. We had a conversation with Gabe. Every conversation, it just went well, and everyone was excited about it. Not only that, we jumped on the opportunity. We took action. Me and Goose were having this conversation last night. We're talking about applying what we learned. Actually, shout out to my buddy Gilbert Rodriguez, Pure Line Plumbing in North Carolina. We're also talking about this with him. He's talking about action takers. He was here. We're sitting in the office / now studio, and we're talking about you can read, because he asked me, he's like, I have a stack of books. So he's like, did you read all those books? And I said, actually, the majority of them, yes. But the biggest thing that's not impressive to me. I don't care if you have a whole library full of stuff. of books that you quote unquote have, even if you read them. The thing here is the application of the knowledge that you've gained through these materials, right? It makes no sense. People say knowledge is power. Knowledge is not power, okay? It's applied knowledge is power. You know, they say it's like a constipation of knowledge, right? You just have so much stuff in your head and you're like, I want to get it out. And you don't do it. You don't use it. What's the point? I've been there. I've read book in, book out, cover to cover. Wow, it's great information. That's awesome. And I'm still doing the same thing. That was a huge learning curve for me. That was like a huge moment that I realized, I'm like, whoa. I got to start applying. That's why I don't care anymore how many books. It's more of a quality thing to me. It's what I'm getting out of that. And getting out of something is the application of what you're learning.
Going back to what we were talking about, seizing the moment and you know, having the two gentlemen, you know, guy one and guy two, one going after his dreams and putting in the time, and the other one not, and then talking about cherishing the moment. What do you guys do? And I'll kind of throw it out there. What do you guys do to find the balance between seizing the moment and cherishing, you know, your time? Because I mean, they are kind of on the opposite spectrums. Like, how are you cherishing your time if you're constantly chasing a goal or pushing towards something? Is there a balance, or is there one or the other? Or what is in talking, I'm like thinking, like, how do you do both? Can you do both?
I think it's the same thing. I think you're giving value to your time by jumping on specific opportunities. This goes back to what I was saying earlier. You have to be careful on what you're choosing. You have, like you're saying now, you know, you've learned your lesson from getting that, you know, Jeep with that stereo system or whatever it is. It's picking the right opportunities for you. Just because, listen, every opportunity that comes your way, it might not be for you. There's so many things that sound so good. That's one thing we all learned. There's so many opportunities out there. The thing is you have to put an understanding, and once you experience, you know, certain levels of application when it comes to opportunity, you know, okay, that's not for me. And for me to stop, you know, putting my time into stuff that I know is not going to work specifically for me, that's me valuing my own time. That's me learning from my mistakes. That's me learning from my experiences. So I feel like, in a way, it's kind of the same thing. The pursuit is where you got to be careful. You always have to, no matter what, whether you're a dream chaser or whether you're just kind of a chill, laid back kind of person, everyone has to find balance. It doesn't matter, because it's not just in chasing dreams. It's in health. It's in, you know, your spiritual sense, your relational sense, you and your wife, you and your brother, you and your parents, your work life balance. You have to find, there's a balance with everything. So it's really that juggle. You have to find what works for you. To you, or to me, let's just say, one guy might be like constantly chasing something. He's like, oh my God, he's always at it. That's his norm, right? So we're all kind of like at our own levels. Then to me, someone who's not doing anything, that's like, dude, you're never doing anything. But in his mind, he's taking action. I don't know what it is, but I'm making, you know, a perceived judgment because of how I see being a go-getter, or how I see chasing the opportunity or seizing the moment. Sometimes people are just, you always had that kid who always finished the test first. Sometimes he actually had a better grade than you, and you're like, how in the world is this happening right now?
I raced one time. Like, let me hurry up and finish before so-and-so does. I'm like, they got it all right. I know I'm going to get it all right. Dude, I bombed that test. I think I got a 0 on it. It was like the worst decision ever.
But like with that too, it's like you can't compare whatever level you're at to somebody else's best.
Exactly.
Too. So
that's
like,
what I learned.
They may be amazing at whatever they do, but if you just try to like rush through it and try to compare it to them, obviously it's not going to measure up.
I mean, going back to Temple University was a perfect example. There's kids at Temple that just got it, right? I mean, to me, and I'm like, dude, he's not even doing any work. This guy has better grades than me, and they're not cheating. They're not doing nothing. Their intelligence level when it came to the academics of, you know, college is just at a whole nother level, where for me, I had to be in the library every day. I had to be at the tech center, you know, doing my thing and research or whatever. That's what worked for me. To some people, Manny can tell you, was like, dude, this dude's nonstop, da da da. it wasn't even that. It was just that's what I had to do to get the grade that I wanted, that I desired. I had a pal who went through the same courses as I did. He studied his tail off, but I definitely put in more time. But I actually think he graduated a better GPA than I did. Right? I mean, so it was like I just didn't have that.
Yeah,
right?
everybody has different skill
I had to
levels.
work way more. Well, for me, I thought it was working way more just to get a basic understanding that him naturally is kind of like, they call it like that photogenic, memory type of thing. He read it once, he got it. He was good.
Yeah.
For me, it was like I had to read that thing 15 times, write it down, type it out, email it to myself, send it to my professor, have them proofread it, get it back, and then I was like, okay, I got it. That's going to be A. You know what I mean? Like it was brutal, and I'm not sure if that even answers your question.
No, not even close. It's
What was the question?
Here's the question: is how do you guys stop and smell the roses? That's the question, because that to me, what I'm asking is you're grinding. Mikey pushing to open up another portion of a shop to continue to grow his brand. Heck, to be the best IT specialist, to continue to move up. How do you stop? Like, you're so worried about the grind and with your family. How do you stop and kind of smell the roses to really enjoy that? Because when it's when that time's gone, it's gone. So how do you stop and enjoy it and make it a lasting memory?
I'm all about organization. Like, I try to keep things in like a timely manner in my head. Like Tuesday, my schedule is Tuesday through Saturday. I'm at the shop, so I know from 9 to 8 every day. That's where I'm gonna be at, and then after that, I'll go 8 o'clock or whatever 9. I'll go to the gym, and that's where my mind just I free my mind. Saturday evening, depending if I have my daughter or not, that's all on her. Sunday, I keep strictly to just family. Like, I don't do anything. I don't brainstorm on anything else. That's my relaxed day. Like, I don't think hard. I don't do anything. I just chill out with my family. You guys all know. And then Mondays is my runaround day, where I go and run my errands, do what I have to do. I feel like I do more work on a Monday, not even being in the shop, and then at the end of that day, which isn't a long day on Mondays, that's when I sit back and reevaluate my whole week. Was it a successful week? Because that's where my week, my Sundays and Mondays are everyone's Saturdays and Sundays. So my week for me starts on Tuesday. So Monday night is when I reevaluate everything. Was it a success? Right. Did I do what I had to do? Right. Or do I have to do more? Or should I slow down? Or should I spend more time with my daughter? Should I, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's where my stuff goes. Or Mondays, actually we meet up here. We do this podcast Monday nights. Right. That's where your mind just explodes. And I feel like I think more on Mondays.
Right.
And I don't know if that even answered anything. But.
Yeah, that's huge, because that's, for me, that's what my thing is, prioritizing. Make sure things are, and I have a high emotional intelligence. So when I was talking about earlier was an IQ, my EQ is very high. So I sense things very easily. I can read people super easy. I can tell when it's all right, maybe I should pay attention to certain, something else, closer or whatever it is. But I'm the same way. I have to do, work. When I drive into work, we're talking about this. When we drive into work, we have certain things. When we come back from work, I know I don't start, quote unquote, grinding till 8 o'clock. So from 8 o'clock and on, that's when my beautiful wife then, goes full force and, doing her thing, trying to put the baby to sleep and stuff like that. Everything's quiet here. That's when I kind of go in my office and kind of do my thing. When it comes to school, that's when I'm studying. And the other thing is, on the weekends, is definitely a family thing. Unless there's a special reason why I'm working, it's very rare. So I'm always doing something. We always try to kind of hang out with friends or go out to dinner or do something with James, go to the park or something like that. And Sunday fun day kind of thing as well. And then lastly is I'm on a weekly mastermind call with my buddy Scott. We then kind of ground each other, all right, maybe we should, put more attention towards this, because we're not just talking about being, an entrepreneur or a go-getter. It's everything. It's being a husband. It's being a father. It's being a role model. It's being a leader. And kind of, dude, are you paying attention to this? Did you look at that? So that kind of winds me down. And then conversations with you guys, when we do hit that weekend, we're relaxing. We're definitely taking advantage of, the good weather and stuff like that. So I still don't even know if that answered your question. But
yeah, I don't even know.
What are you looking for, man? You answer your question. Can you?
How I do it, heck, to answer your question is we have at work.
That was your question. But.
Yeah, well, because you answered, you already tried to answer my question with the question, but it's just I took pictures. So we had at work we took a large project on, and it was a full demo, putting things back up. So going through it, you don't realize how crappy it was. But after I took pictures and looked back into my phone and I rolled through, I was like, man, do you remember when? And that's when we had the opportunity to go back and kind of like, man, we went through that. And we looked back and it was like, man, do you remember going through that? We stopped and smelled the roses, and we stopped and paused and looked at it and said, look where we started to now look where we are. And I took pictures of that. Like, I can remember taking mental pictures of Jimmylee over his desk, literally pulling out his front hairs. He would literally pull his hair out while studying, and I'm talking about 4 o'clock in the morning. So I can go back. Like, you go back and appreciate that? Like, can you go back and appreciate that? Like, that's something to be, I guess, proud of. For me, anyway, looking at it, like, man, you woke up at 5 o'clock every morning in college and would literally pull your hair out studying. And, like, to go back and think about it, and like, man, did you really enjoy it? Obviously, you didn't enjoy it because it was kind of a crappy time, but, you know what?
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I'm that a person where I reflect every single day. So I guess I'm totally, there's no like 5 months in a row where I'm just like, all right, I need a vacation from everything. Yes, I do. We all need that, that time away to step back and kind of get away from the craziness. But I actually do, like, every single day, I reflect before I go to bed. I actually think about, I read this somewhere. It said, think about how your day went, fix all the stuff to make them right in your mind. Mm-hmm. So then it kind of puts you in a good mood or whatever, puts you like in a happy space. The other thing is a book called The Power by Rhonda Byrne was the most influential book. I mean, I literally carried this book everywhere for like 3 years, and it got me in the I guess the mindset of gratitude, just constantly being thankful, constantly. Literally, there's an exercise where she says, for every step you take, say thank you. Up until, like, so when you get out of your car, when you park at work, if for anyone who drives into work, from the second you close the door of your car, every step you take, say thank you. And it kind of puts you in a different emotional state, level of awareness. And you're like, wow, you actually do start appreciating things and going back. But, touching back on what you're saying about college, I do it all the time. There's times where I'm just, like I said, it's quiet, my wife and my son are sleeping. I'm just sitting downstairs, literally just staring. The TV's off, but I'm staring at the TV, kind of just going through the things like, how did I get here? Like in a happy way, like, man, look at all the stuff that we did. All the hard times that we went through, the whole, a lot of times we hold back our emotions. We hold back so much that we don't show it. So sometimes it might just seem like we're just constantly just like full-fledged, like, animals, but you're kind of protective in that way, because I don't know, it's a weird thing. You always feel like you have to provide and you have to be like that, whatever, just stoppable force that's just always trying to, get it, so to speak. But it's not that. It's in my mind, it might seem that way, but it really is. Every single night I actually reflect and appreciate, and like I said, I do these like little weird exercises where I am being thankful and being, having, gratitude for, the life.
That's better. I like it. That's more of an answer. Reflective.
Yeah, I mean, there's if anyone's interested in the whole gratitude thing, there's a bunch of books out there. But Norman Vincent Peale, Power of Positive Thinking is a book. There's a book titled Positive Self-Talk. That's where it actually started for me, was, how I'm talking to myself. And then The Power by Rhonda Byrne. That all those books will put you in a state of gratitude. And oh my gosh, that changed everything for me, because it's kind of what you're saying. I'm just driving without the music on and just going and reflecting everything, like, thank God that I have these 4 wheels that I'm getting. You start, and it says, be thankful for 100 things before you get to your first destination. So now you're starting to think, thank you for the air in my tires. You literally get down to that level, because you're like, thank you for my wife. Thank you for my kids. Thank you for my family. Thank you. And you keep going in. Thank you for my job. Thank you for my salary. Thank you. And then all of a sudden you're like, thank you for the steering wheel actually functioning. Thank you for my turn signals. Those are things we actually do take for granted, but it's kind of funny, because then I'm starting, and the only reason why I could say this is because I literally did it. It's kind of funny that you say it, but thank you for my shoes. It's all the stuff that there's a lot of stuff that we take for granted. That exercise makes you realize how I don't know how good we have it.
I got you. And that's more of the answer in the question. So
Yeah. So, all right. So let's jump into the "What Would You Do" segment of the podcast. This is actually from an article by Chrissy Stockton titled "50 Would You Rathers That Will Destroy You Forever," which is kind of an intimidating title. But so let's say some mad scientist comes up to you and shows you two different time machines, and you have to make a decision right now, seizing the moment, if you want to take advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime situation. So this was number 22 on her list. Would you rather have a time machine that only goes back in time or a time machine that only goes forward in time?
For clarification, is it a one-way trip? Like you can only go into the past and you're stuck there, or in the future and you're stuck there, or is it forward and backwards? Like you back to the present.
We will bring you back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can only do it once.
You can only do it once, and it's only in one direction.
If you go
So
back,
you're gonna come back. So
Yeah,
you
you're
can either go back and fix your past, or you can go see your future and kind of change it as
It's
you go.
kind of open-ended. Yeah, that is actually a good point. I'm not sure if you can change
do you
it.
have to be around, like alive at this moment? Because for me, I would say I would go back into the 50s.
No.
I don't know
This,
what it is.
This is
Okay.
something. Okay, so me and Gabe were kind of talking about this over the weekend or the weekend before.
Yeah, a while ago.
How long? So I said, all right, so you can go 500 years back or 500 years forward.
Okay.
So either way, you
That's
wouldn't be
big.
alive.
You want to be around dinosaurs? That's cool.
500 years. not 500,000 years. Heck.
So wait, how far can you like in your
So
lifetime?
is
right?
there? Is that the,
No.
is that
It's,
the only
beyond
stipulation?
your lifetime.
and you are as your present time person.
You guys are
You are
all.
what you know now, but you can go back in time.
Yes, the age
Okay.
you are, everything that you are now,
Yeah.
but you can go back 500 years forward or 500 years back. And the reason why we put this date on there because it can get like ridiculous. But the problem is, I'll give you my answer to kick this off. I said I would go 500 years forward, being that if I can go back 2,000 years and hang out and talk to Jesus or something, that'd be cool for me. But 500 years ago is not, something that for me personally grabs my attention so much that I want to go back there. I think it is a cool era. I would love to go back there. But if I had to choose between, I would like to see what's to come or what's coming. I feel like when I come back, I'm like prepared or something like that. I don't know. So 500 years forward for me, I think will be absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I actually have to agree with that. In terms of me, I'm a lot more technology minded, so I'd rather see where technology has gone that far in advance.
Right.
5 years, because it changes dramatically over course of 10, 15 years, let alone
500 days.
Yeah, exactly. So let alone 500 years in the future, what that would even look like.
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool.
See, I'd be intrigued to go back 500 years just because it's see everything from the beginning.
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs. See everything from the way beginning. Like, see how things are being made, especially technology. Technology's come a long ways. To see how it all, the light being made or a telephone being made, like that's just, to me, that's all intriguing. Like seeing things that
That
were
is crazy. That's
being
all
made.
like within 100 plus, like under 120 years.
Absolutely,
I guess.
absolutely. So that's where I would take it. I would take it back and then just come back and.
But you're right. Like
More
going
knowledge.
back to there are eras that I would love to go back. Like I would love to just for a day or two go to the 20s, then the 30s, then the 40s.
Oh,
I would love to go
absolutely.
from like
Absolutely.
the 1900s or like maybe like 1890 to to when I was born, but at my age now to kind of
Yes,
experience
yes.
those 10 years, those gaps, just to fully grasp what was really going. Because there was like some high times, some low times, but just to actually, I'm like, I don't want to stay here, but it'd be cool to kind of see
Cool
how
just
it
to
was.
visit.
Even like walking into like saloons and kind of like that whole like thing. I think it's awesome. Then people are like, yeah, well, there's no electricity. I'm like, oh yeah, take me back.
Yeah.
You know?
Is there a time limit you're there for?
No, I mean, I think it was very open ended.
Okay.
You guys are super specific. I didn't even think of that. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know. No, I mean, you could just say you're there enough for however long you want.
Okay.
You could just come back whenever. I mean,
I just die in the future.
well, you can't. You just be like everlasting. All right, so you're there for a week. Let's just say that.
Okay.
So you're there for a week. You could really get an understanding of what's going on. Let's just say. So Manny, what would you do?
Future. I mean, you can always. There's so much history. You can read about it now,
Right.
but you don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Right.
Like that to me would be cool. I can always go back and read how the car was made or how the light bulb was done.
Yeah,
And you
but
can imagine what
watching
it's like.
it being made.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I agree that would be awesome, but I mean,
that's like I feel like that's what people are gonna be saying now, like with the internet or the cell phone or those. Man, you were alive.
Well, Facebook,
and we're like,
yeah,
or Facebook, like social media in general, right?
Facebook.
Social
we were
media,
in college and it was like, what's this thing, Facebook? And
Right.
meanwhile, like, it was the craze, and now you look back, it's like, man, we were the beginning of that.
Right. And then people are gonna, how was it being alive when that was created? We're thinking about it now, like, dude, that's ridiculous. It's not that big of a deal.
Right.
Goose, what about you?
I don't know. I'm kind of torn in between. Like,
He wants to go 250 back, 250 forward.
and then just
Make
stay
it
right
even.
where I'm at.
He just wants to. He's so happy to be
Live in the
alive at this
present.
moment.
Yeah,
right
no,
now.
yeah, because going back, it is like I would love to experience all the old like things being done, being built as from scratch that will make that actually what's going to make the future what it is.
Right.
So it's like if it wasn't for beginning of the era, and like you said, in 1900s, a lot of stuff wouldn't be around for 500 years forward.
Right.
So it's just like just watch everything just like evolve from that far back
Yeah.
and
It's
then that far forward.
It's super interesting. Super interesting. Actually, it's mind blowing.
And I still didn't answer the question, but anyway.
And he didn't answer Manny's question. He didn't answer the question that this
didn't
Chrissy
answer my
Stockton.
question.
He didn't answer Gabe's text message. This guy's just not answering anything.
Yes, Gabe, yes.
Well, thank you.
Well, that wraps up What Would You Do segment. Email us your, I guess, preference or what will you do if that opportunity presented itself. I'm talking about this, the time machine, 500 years forward or 500 years back. I think it'll be interesting to hear some feedback on that. And with that, we are ending podcast episode number 5. And I want to wrap it up with 2 quotes. One from Mahatma Gandhi and the other from Emily Dickinson. So Emily Dickinson says, "Forever is composed of nows." Kind of like what we were talking about earlier. And Mahatma Gandhi says, "Live as if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever." Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyleeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyleeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.